So this is where we started our last lesson, thinking about what we knew about triangles and what we needed to be able to find out. And for triangles which are not right angled, we need a way to be able to find missing angles or missing sides. And that's what the sine rule allows us to do, as we saw in the last lesson. Remember, this also works with right angle triangles as well, works with any triangle at all. Two quick examples here to think about. The first one, we've got an angle and the opposite side. We know both of those. And we've got another pair. We've got an angle and a side we want to find out. So this fits the sine rule. Two pairs of sides and angles with one missing value. But we don't have that same information in the second triangle. That's where we need another rule, which is where the cosine rule comes in. So for this, we're interested in all three sides and an angle. And we can either find the angle if we know all three sides, or we can find the missing side that's opposite an angle we know. Pause the video quickly, think about which of these need the sine rule and which the cosine rule. First one, we've got these two opposite pairs going on, so that's the sine rule. Next one, we've got information about the three sides. We're trying to find one of those, and that's opposite an angle we know, so that's the cosine rule. Again, we've got three sides this time. We know all three sides. We're trying to find an angle. That's the cosine rule again. And the last one, we've got an opposite pair here of angle and side, opposite pair here of angle and side, so that's going to be the sine rule. So today we're focusing on the cosine rule, but it's important you're aware of when we'd use that and when we'd use the sine rule instead. We looked in the lesson for the sine rule on how to label triangles. Works the same way for the cosine rule. And it's important we just have an awareness of this, because when we see the rule, it looks really confusing. We just need to be clear about what's going on with those sides. So the important thing here is the side and the angle opposite. We've got those as a pair. We've then got the other two sides which appear here as well. And you need to remember this, but once you've practiced it a few times, it does make more sense. It does start to come back to you more quickly. We can also write this rule thinking about with b squared being the focus. Obviously, we find the square root to find b. And in this case, it's the cosine of b. It's the cosine of the opposite angle to this side we're interested in. And likewise, we could write it with c squared, and you'll notice again here that then the angle we're looking at is the angle opposite again. This will make more sense as we go through a couple of examples. The key thing with it to remember is the angle we've got and the side opposite. So here, the angle we've got and the side opposite. So we want to find out the length of p here, and that's equal to a in this. The angle 70 degrees is equal to a. It doesn't matter about labelling them, but we just need to be aware of how to use the formula. So for this, we're going to have p squared equals, now we've got the two sides here. It doesn't matter the order we put them in. So 4 squared plus 6 squared. Take away two lots of b times c, so 2 times 4 times 6 times cosine of the angle opposite the side we're trying to find out, which is 70 degrees. So carefully put this into the calculator. This gives us 35.583. We're not going to round it yet, but this is the value, remember, for p squared. We want to find the value for p, so it's just a case of finding the square root of this. And in the question, it asks us the nearest 0.1 centimetre, and it comes out as 5.96, so that'll be 6.0 centimetres. So that's how we use the rule. Have a try with this one. Think about which angle it is you need before you get started. Pause and have a go. The opposite pair we're interested in are these. So we're going to work out first of all the length of q squared and then use that to work out the length of q. So we have one of the other sides squared plus the other side squared. Take away 2 times one side, the other side, times cosine of our angle. We calculate that. We don't round it yet, and to find q, we need the square root and we're asked for it to 1 decimal place, so that's 4.0. Have a practice with this first task. There's a copy of this in Show My Homework. The first 3 are pretty straightforward, nice and clear. The next 3 involve a bit more thought, and E and F, both of those can be done with the cosine rule or with the sine rule. It'll be really good practice to try both of those. And to help you remember the cosine rule, because you do need to remember it for your GCSE, it's really useful to write it down with each question, and that will help it sink in. So pause the video, have a go at these, and then check the answers. Hopefully you're feeling more confident using the cosine rule now to find a missing side. We're now going to look at how to use it to find a missing angle. And to do that, it's really useful to rearrange the rule to make cosine A the subject, and we can do this in 3 straightforward steps. And this is the version we want to use when finding an angle. If you can remember this, absolutely brilliant. I think it's quite difficult too, but if you can remember the original form we were using for a missing side, then you can easily rearrange it. So we need to be clear about which side is A in this formula, and that's just the side that's opposite the angle we're interested in. The order of the other 2 sides isn't important. So cosine of our angle, cosine of x, is equal to 1 of the other side squared plus the other side squared, take away our opposite side squared. And that's all divided by 2 times our other 2 sides. Calculate that carefully, but don't round it yet. And remember, that's cosine of our angle. So as you've done previously with trig functions, to find the angle, we need to use the inverse function, so inverse cosine here, and use the answer button on your calculator to make sure it's not a rounded number you're putting in, it is the full number. And here, to the nearest degree, that comes out to 33. Pause the video, have a try with this. First thing to do is be clear about which of the sides is A in this formula, the one that's opposite the angle we're interested in. Remember, the order of the other 2 doesn't matter. But we need to be careful here because they're in different units of measurement. So this is 8 meters, and that'll be an easier calculation than if we change the other 2 to centimeters. Cosine of our angle is equal to 1 of the other sides squared plus the other side squared, take away our opposite side squared, all divided by 2 times the other 2 sides. As always, it's important to show your steps in these calculations. And it's fine to write out this answer either as a fraction or a decimal. Just as long as we're doing it as a decimal, we don't round it. Remember, that's cosine of our angle. So to find our angle, we need to use the inverse cosine. You can use the answer button there on your calculators. And to the nearest degree, that comes to 44. Have a try with the second task. Again, the first 3 are nice and straightforward. The next ones will get you thinking a little bit more. Make sure you check your answers in Show My Homework. There's just an extension task to come after this, but I just wanted to recap where the cosine rule fits in with our previous knowledge. So we saw that the sine rule we can use for missing angles and missing sides, and that's for any triangle, right angled as well as not right angled triangles. We can also work out those things with the cosine rule. And again, that works for right angled triangles too. And just remember, it's when we have 3 sides and 1 angle we're interested in. So just the optional extension to come. We'll do some more practice on this in the next lesson. If you have got some time and some brain space left, these extensions will put your knowledge to the test a bit more. One thing you do need to remember for this is what bearings are. So they're always measured from north, measured clockwise, and they have 3 digits in them. So for example, here we've got 60 degrees from north, we'd write that as 0, 6, 0. So you need to remember those key facts for a few of the questions. Check your answers in Show My Homework once you're done.